There are many excellent resources that already cover the new desired state configuration feature of Windows PowerShell v4, also baked into Windows Server 2012 R2. There's a TechEd presentation, as well as there is information on TechNet. So we're not going to cover the general aspects of how you use desired state configuration. What we are going to do is cover the XenDesktop desired state configuration provider from a usage standpoint. So here I have a virtual machine, and I have the zip file that contains the Citrix XenDesktop resource provider. I'm going to extract this to the PowerShell modules folder so that desired state configuration can actually pick it up. So that's under Program Files, PowerShell Modules. If you set up a desired state configuration pull server, this is also where desired state configuration will expand your modules into. So it's the same path. And here's the provider that we're going to be using with our sample script. And I'm going to open it up with the PowerShell ISE so we can take a brief look at it. Let's expand this up a bit, a little easier to read. So what my sample script does is I've built in the options that the resource provider can support. It can install a controller, a storefront server, a license server, a director server, a desktop VDA server, or a session VDA server. So the requirement is Server 2012 R2. The configuration that we're going to work with, I've just called XD server role. We import the resource provider for Citrix XenDesktop, and I'm going to affect the localhost node. Here you'll see that I'm setting the local configuration manager to automatically reboot if the provider requires that. In this case, the provider will tag desired state configuration to reboot the host in order to complete the installation. So we need to apply that local configuration manager configuration. In my case, I create a logging folder, and then I call the XenDesktop role provider, and I tell it what role type to pass in. In this case, I'm going to pass in controller, storefront, license, director, desktop VDA, session VDA. I'm going to invoke the configuration. I'm going to apply the configuration to the local configuration manager. This is what supports this executing reboot on its own. And then I'm going to start the configuration that we defined. Now, before we get started, this provider supports delivering the XenDesktop media in a variety of ways. So the XenDesktop media can be attached to a VM, for example, as a data disk. It can be attached to a VM as an ISO or a DVD file to a physical machine. It can also be delivered as an archive. So say you use a zip archive, you download the media from some source and you extract that, and then it will look in the same folder where the script is running. In this case, this script that's applying the configuration, if it finds a folder in here that contains the media, it will automatically do that too. So you can get the media into the machine in a number of ways that can support your requirements for your environment. In my example here, I've attached the XenDesktop media to the machine as an ISO file, so it shows up as a DVD drive. Now my sample script that I've shown here is rather simplistic. So this would be what they just called a desired state configuration push model, because I'm at the machine where it's going to be applied. I'm going to actually just run this script, providing the role type. Say I want another XenDesktop controller. So I'm going to execute the script that I've shown, and the script's going to run here in the background. You might notice here that I've commented out this wait parameter. If we left that, then the script would actually pause and wouldn't reboot. So as you can see, it has applied the configuration, and in the background, it's actually running. So if we open up Task Manager, because since this is applying the configuration immediately, it's going to work through a couple things here. And as you can see, the Citrix installer is running in the background. So as that continues to process, if you continue to watch your machine, you will eventually see that it will reboot. After the reboot is complete, you can log back into your machine and you can apply your configuration to your XenDesktop role.